Yo, what up nerd? Today we're talking about a set with zero importance. Now it is very important, but the name is zero. Anyway, sorry for the cringe intro, my name is Simon, this is Casual Audiophile, and today we're checking out the Truthear x Crinacle Zero. So let's jump onto the table and see what it is. Now this is an IEM that I was both really excited to try and kind of scared to try. Excited because it's a $50 IEM that has two dynamic drivers, not just one, two, and a real crossover between them, so that's kind of rare in this price range. And yeah, like one of the driver is taking care of like the lower bass, and the other one is like, you know, the mid-range and treble, so that's exciting. Now the part I was scared of is that it's tuned to the Harman target. And if you don't know me, I am not exactly the biggest fan of the Harman target. I think it usually sounds just kind of thin. The bass boost on it is usually like kind of too much and also like detached from the music. Like tends to overemphasize some things like, you know, female vocals and like the lowest sub bass, but de-emphasize some things that, you know, I really appreciate in music, like bass guitars or male vocals, right? So I usually am not the biggest fan of the Harman target. I just don't like how it sounds, right? So when I heard that Crinacle tuned this set to Harman, I was like, do I even want to review this? But then I saw how beautiful it looked. It's just like, look at this, how sexy this IEM is. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm reviewing it. Send me a copy. So I did. And disclaimer, this unit was sent to me by Nims, who is my friend. Obviously, no affiliation to Truthear or Crinacle. Nobody paid me or influenced me to do anything, but there we go. Disclaimer. So let's just cover quickly the fit and comfort. Today is going to be a much quicker review than I usually do. Let me know what you guys think. If you prefer my usual style or the style that I do today, I'm open to suggestions. Okay, so when it comes to the fit, let me... Oops, saying the wrong scene. Yeah, let me just show you. This set is huge, right? But it just slides into my ears. And, you know, I have no need to fiddle with it for the fit. It just slots into my ear and stays there comfortably. That is awesome. I can wear this set for hours without feeling any discomfort. That's great, actually. I was kind of scared because, like, you know, it is a huge set, right? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm showing the wrong camera. This is a huge set, and I was like, oh god, I remember the Blessing too. Is this going to be another IEM that's as uncomfortable as that set is? But no, this is actually hella comfortable. Helps that the tips that come with it, those are the narrow bore tips, are kind of angled. You know, they are like thicker here than they are at the base, which is, I don't know, just gives me an amazing fit. So the tips are great. The cable is also great. Like this cable, I wouldn't mind it coming with more expensive IEMs because it's just, you know, it's basic, yes, but it's nice to the touch. It behaves awesomely. There is no problem with like tangling or anything like that. It shoulder wraps easily, stays in place, and looks pretty damn cool. So there is like nothing to complain about in terms of the cable. Cable is great. And also, the case. Now, I know this is a controversial one. Some people love it, some people don't. I personally love it. It's like an kind of an origami style leatherette case, but you just put the IEM inside, fold it, click the buttons, and I don't know, I love it. It's small, portable, and I don't feel like I need more protection for my IEMs. Now, if you do, something like the case that the Dunu Titan S comes with, or the Kai case, which I don't have with me right now, would be better. But for me, this case is really awesome. So on the accessories front, and the build and looks and comfort, all of this set is a huge winner. $50, that's, you know, I wouldn't mind paying like $200 for a set that is built like this and comes with those accessories. Now, would I mind paying those $200 for a set that sounds like this, right? Because, some people who are like big fans of the Harman target might tell you that, oh, this is literally the perfect sound and, it sounds so close to perfection and nothing under $500 will be. No, of course not. It's not a $500 set, it's not a $200 set, it's not even a $100 set, right? But it does not mean that it's bad for $50. I genuinely think that it hit the perfect sweet spot in terms of price, where like if this was like $80, as you will hear later, I would struggle to recommend it. At $50, I think we might have a winner. All right, so how does it actually sound? The sound signature on it is kind of, like the Harman target, but it fixes at least some of the issue that I have with it. There is a tiny bump over the Harman target near like the 300 Hz range, which is like the high bass, low mid-range region, which just, kind of warms up the sound and makes it like not as cold and analytical as the normal Harman target is. And second thing, which is the biggest thing, and I applaud Crinacle for doing this, the bass rolls off in the lowest octave compared to the Harman target, which is, just wait a second because I need to emphasize it. This is how it should be on an IEM, unless like the driver used in the IEM is like ridiculously good. The bass should roll off in like the lowest octave for one simple reason. Like if it doesn't, you get the same effect that I talked about in the Blessing 2 review, where like a bad driver or like a mediocre driver will just make the bass sound really like poof, 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 poofy without follow through. And I don't like that personally, so I think the bass always should roll off in the lowest octave. And Crinacle has fixed that over the Harman target, so that's a huge plus, which just means that when it comes to the sound, right, it sounds a bit more natural, a bit warmer, a bit more coherent than the usual Harman target. I actually genuinely like the sound signature on this, and just to put it in like context, with an IEM tuned to the normal Harman target, like the Moondrop variations is one example. I genuinely can't listen to like rock or metal with those sets because it's just garbage for those genres. The Truthear Zero actually works fantastically for metal. Still not the best for rock, but for metal music, it's great. Also, the usual genres that you would expect the Harman target to do great at, rap, K-pop, stuff like this, just sounds great. Okay, so let's go a bit more in depth. The bass on this set, I won't say it's like has an awesome quality because there is not much texture. Like there is some punch and some rumble. I'll give it that. The dynamics are pretty good. Not like anything out of this world, but pretty good. But yeah, main like flaw of this bass is the lack of texture. You don't get like this grit to bass guitars that I really love, and some sets in a similar price range can do that. So that's kind of a bummer. But overall, the tuning is pretty good. It is definitely emphasized, right? It's not neutral bass. You get a bass boost in the set, but it's a tastefully done bass boost that I just can't help but enjoy, especially on like metal music. I mentioned that I don't really love it for rock music because what it does to bass guitars is like there's still just a bit too little on mid bass. So what it does is like bass guitars just sound, they have a stronger leading edge, right? But they just kind of disappear too quickly. They don't linger on in the music like they should. So that's just a bummer. But overall, I like the bass on this set. This is one of my favorite bass boosts in a budget set, really. It's really tastefully done. And the mid-range is like kind of typical Harman, but better because of that bump at 300 Hz, which just means, female vocals sound amazing. Now, not exactly like, super realistic or anything, close to, but not like exactly. There is one set that's a bit cheaper and those female vocals like in a more realistic way that I will talk about soon. But this is good for those. Male vocals, they can sometimes lack a little bit of body, but it's nowhere near as bad as the stock Harman target. So I would genuinely say, wait, let me just have a drink. Yeah, I would genuinely say the mid-range on this set is very well tuned. Then again, I'll talk about detail later. Treble, it's kind of the typical IEM treble, right? It just kind of does its thing, doesn't bother me, and doesn't really grab attention either. Like, there are some sets in this price range that do treble real well. This set just does what I consider IEM treble, right? Most IEMs don't do treble that well. Like, hell, some expensive sets like the Moondrop Blessing 2 don't do treble well. And I could hype it up saying like, oh, this $50 set does the treble as good as the $350 Blessing 2, but the reality is both are just kind of whatever in the treble. It's not bad, it's like almost never sharp or fatiguing, but it's just doesn't grab your attention either way. It just kind of lacks some body to like cymbals and hi-hats and instruments like that. But overall, it's pretty good. Oh, and also, one thing I forgot to mention. Actually, the lower treble is done pretty well. So electric guitars will sound really good on this set, actually. Alright, so that leaves us with one thing. I've really praised the tuning of this set, right? Especially like the bass and the mid-range are really good. Like, you know, I might not be like overly enthusiastic, but it's just like, you know, very good for the price range, right? So, where does that leave us with the set? Well, we need to mention the technicalities, and that's kind of the pitfall of the set. I was like kind of excited because I was like, there's two dynamic drivers, like one of them takes care of the bass and the other of the treble. So I was like kind of hoping that the technical performance is going to be like impressive, at least for the price range. And don't get me wrong, it's not bad. It's not like awfully smoothed out like something like the True or like the cheapo Sony and like EX15 or whatever they called are, right? But it's also not like detailed. There is like some surface level details, right? But you don't get like those micro details in like, you know, electric guitars, vocals, like the subtle like creaking of the voice when the vocalist goes like that. Just this set doesn't do that well. There's not really much of a bass texture. Soundstage is like kind of typical for an IEM. Separation between instruments is good. I would actually say that's one point where it does well. The separation between instruments is pretty good. Resolution is okay. Like even on BC metal tracks, this set just can sort of hold its own, which I appreciate. That, you know, that thing is actually, that's actually something unique in the $50 price range. So yeah, okay. Before I rate this set, let me just compare it to some competition, right? So I would focus on comparing it to my absolute favorite IEM, that's a bit cheaper, and then we'll do some more surface level comparisons with some other IEMs. So this is the Moondrop SSR. This tiny pink thing only uses one dynamic driver, and it's a tiny one. I think it's like a 6mm driver, which is like smaller than the treble driver in the Truthear and way smaller than the, you know, bass driver in the Truthear. Okay, had to take a little bit of a break because of a nosebleed, but now I'm back. And yeah, the comparison I wanted to focus on today was between the Truthear X Crinacle Zero and the Moondrop SSR. Now, there are some similarities between those, like the mid-range on both is kind of similar, really. But there is some differences, namely in the bass region and the treble region. Now, when it comes to the bass, let's start with the bass. Just mention about the Moondrop SSR. This is a set that comes in at $40, right? So $10 cheaper than the Zero, right? And it is a set that's tuned to be mostly neutral, right? Obviously, it doesn't hit like 100%, but to my ears, this does really sound very close to how a natural presentation of music would sound like, right? And so, yeah, the main difference between those sets is in the bass. The bass on the Zero is definitely stronger and more emphasized. The SSR has some emphasis in the bass, and the bass quality, I would say, is better than the Zero. Like, there is more texture, there's like harder punch. The Zero rumbles more, but I think that's just because of the tonality more than the quality of the driver. And yeah, but the bass in the SSR is focused mostly in the mid bass with a sub bass roll off, actually. So what this does to the music is it really emphasizes, like, stuff like bass guitars, which, I mean, it's my favorite part of the bass, at the cost of some, like, lower electronic kind of bass, right? But I don't know, I prefer this. In the mid range, those are very similar, but do you remember that warmth? That added like warmth I mentioned on the Zero that just made it better than the Harman target would be? Well, the SSR just has a little bit more of that. It goes a step further to the point where I think this sounds more natural. Male vocals sound excellent on this set, as well as the female ones. When you hear female singers like Maisie Peters, for example, she sounds like fuller and more natural on the SSR. And when you hear male vocals, they sound like, maybe a bit more, I don't know, clean on the Zero, but like more natural, analog on the SSR. Kind of hard to say. But yeah, what the SSR definitely does better is the treble extension. It just has better, more treble and better quality treble. There's like some body to cymbals, hi-hats, and electric guitars. I would actually say sound better on the Zero. So it's kind of close between those sets, but where the SSR really just still wins to me is the technical performance. There's just more detail. It's, a faster driver, so there's like better separation between instruments. And I think there's also a bit better imaging, right? So I would say this set is better if you want a technical set and, a more natural, more neutral, warmer listen. Whereas the Zero is basically that, but take away some technicalities and some naturalness to add a really nice and fun bass boost, right? So they kind of trade blows, really. I think I'm just gonna say those are my two favorite IEMs under $50. If I could only choose one, I would go for the SSR because it's just better overall. But now that I have both in my collection, I actually crop the Zero more often because that bass boost is just a ton of fun most of the time. So I definitely like this set. But before I rate it, let's just compare it to a few more sets. I wanted to compare it to my previous favorite budget set when it comes to bass, the Blon 03, as well as two sets that are a bit more expensive than Zero, but I just want you to know how much of an upgrade would you be getting by spending like $30 more, because both, I'm just gonna untangle the table while I'm talking, because both of the next sets that I'm gonna mention are they cost exactly $80, right? So those sets are, the one I'm currently untangling is the TRIxHBB Kai. So this is a different reviewer collab, right? The Zero is made in collaboration with Crinacle, whereas the Kai is made in collaboration with HBB, right? And I would say both IEMs are beautiful. I think the Kai looks even better, and both have excellent accessories. The Kai has an awesome cable. I think it's even better than the one on the Zero, and a great case, which I forgot to bring here, which is my bad. And the last IEM I want to mention is the Dunu Titan S, which is a more neutrally tuned IEM. That's also $80, right? And it's kind of like the default recommendation at that price point. So let me just compare those. Oh yeah, and the Blon and Kai are both warm bassy sets. The difference is Blon is more of a V-shaped with elevated treble, and the Kai has relaxed treble. So it's kind of unique on this table because all of the others are, neutral or bright in treble, and this one is actually relaxed. So that's kind of cool. And it just does mean it's kind of like really nice for long listening sessions, right? Okay, so let's rank them. In terms of tuning, now this is heavily preference based, right? You could probably, but all of those are well tuned. Those are my 5 favorite IEMs in like under $100, right? I didn't bring any crap on the table. Maybe I should have, just to beat something up in the comparison, but I didn't. So yeah, in terms of tuning, I would say all of those are great, but the best has just got to be the Dunu Titan S, then the SSR, then I would say the Kai and the Zero are both a bit behind the SSR. I don't know, like I like all of those. You get like neutral tuning with a little bit of a bass boost with the Titan S, neutral tuning with the SSR, a very relaxed warm tuning with the Kai, Harman, which is like a nerdy word for a V-shape tuning with the Zero, and a warm V-shape with the Blon. So all of those are different, and I think there is a place for all of those in a collection, because I have all of them and I listen to all of them sometimes. But let's just stop beating around the bush and tell you, if you like bass, which set should you go for? I'm gonna say, actually, let's assume you're talking about raw bass quality and don't care about the quantity. You don't really need much bass. I would actually do it like this. Yeah, I think the Titan S is the bass quality, has awesome texture, really fast. SSR is just like the Titan S, but kind of less. It's less dynamic, less textured, and less like, fast. But it's also like half the price, so whatever. The Kai, it has awesome bass. It doesn't have the same texture that those two have, but it's just really. It's got the more. Actually, no, the Blon has the most bass on the stable. The Kai just has a really well-tuned bass that's like, warm and enveloping and strong at the same time, right? So it's a ton of fun when listening to metal music. Let me tell you that. The Blon, it's like another tiny step up in quality, a step down in quality, and I would say the Truthear has, the least like texture on the set. Actually, though, it has better dynamics, so it punches a bit harder than the Blon. So I would say those are about equal. All right. So, but if you are a bass head and you want a bass boost, right? Then I would say those two are the best. Then the Blon, and then of course those two. Right? So why do I rank them like that? Because the Kai does have better technicalities in the bass, right? But it's a very different kind of bass boost. If you want a pure bass set that's like relaxed and like great to listen to long sessions of like hip hop, old school rock, go with the Kai. If you want, a bassy set that's like really engaging and good for like stuff like metal, K-pop, and etc. I would actually go for the Zero. The Blon is kind of like the Kai. It's like kind of in between those two. It's just a warmer presentation. It's like if you want a like warmer, more natural presentation, I would go for this over the Zero. But I don't think it really has anything on the Kai. It's my opinion. And then those Titan S, more bass and better quality, and SSR just has the least bass on the table. So there's that. Okay, mid-range. How much do I like the mid-range on its set? I would say I will put Titan S first, and then let's go like this. Yeah, when it comes to the mid-range tuning, the Titan S just kind of perfectly neutral, maybe a bit on the thick side, but I love it. SSR, just perfectly neutral mid-range. Blon, this is a warm tuned mid-range that just sounds really like analog, for better lack of for lack of a better word, kind of like, you know, listening to music on vinyl, basically. The Zero is like a kind of a thinner mid-range with like a bit of a, how would you say, a bit of a thinness, right? But it's still mostly natural. And the Kai, the mid-range on this is not bad. It's not like I don't like it, but it's just, you know, sometimes the bass kind of bleeds into it. It's like, it's kind of similar to the mid-range on the Titan S, just not as good, right? So there's that. Still not bad, but I don't know. I wouldn't take this as a mid-range set. Let's just put it that way. Treble. Now, I'm just gonna do a shuffle like this. If you care about the quality of the treble, Kai is actually the best. Yeah, just a big change, right? But the quality of the treble, stuff like hi-hats, cymbals, electric guitars, those all sound awesome on this set. Now, there isn't a lot of treble, right? So if you care about treble quality and want, you know, like a neutral or elevated amount of treble, you would definitely consider the Titan S or the SSR more. I think those are comparable in the treble, actually. So maybe I'll should them put them like this. Very similar in the treble. Yeah, very good. But you know, like this set is just special in the treble. Like when I first heard like Fleetwood Mac's what was the song, Dreams, on this, I was like, holy shit! I was hearing like those drums and the electric guitar, and I was like, oh my fucking god, that sounds awesome, right? So yeah, the Kai is definitely best for treble quality. Blon is kind of the worst, and Zero is kind of in the middle. Okay, so all of that being said, why did I do this shuffle, right? Because it's like, didn't really tell you much. Well, maybe it did, because what it did tell you is that there are a lot of cool IEMs to choose from in the budget range nowadays, and you really can't go wrong with either of those, like, but the Zero is great. It's probably one of the best all-rounder IEMs under $50, along with the SSR, right? The Blon is more of a specialist. But it also doesn't really, you know, like you still get better performance by upgrading, right? With the Kai, I would say it's more of a side grade. Both of those sets are really, really good, right? It's just a choice if you prefer a more cleaner sound or a more relaxed sound, right? Between the Truthear or the SSR, it's basically just the question of if you prefer a bass boost or more technicalities. Between the Blon and the Zero, now that's an interesting comparison. Those sets couldn't be further apart in tuning, and the Blon is actually more technical despite being older and cheaper. But I would genuinely recommend the Zero as a better starter set for beginners. Now, if you later discover that you prefer a warmer tuning, then the Blon is a nice way to, you know, do that discovery. But the Titan S, I would say it's just in a different league than the Truthear. So by paying $30 more, you just get so much better of a technical performance without really sacrificing anything, right? So there's that. So how do I rate it? Well, it's $50. I might have some nitpicks with it, but in the end, $50. It's well worth the money. I'm just gonna say this. Like, if you have $50 to spend on an IM, I would either go for the SSR or the Zero. If you can get SSR and the Blon on sale for $50, I would say this is probably having those two for when you want neutral and for when you want bassy is a better combo. But if you just want to have one IM, just go for the Zero. You will not be disappointed. So I'm gonna place this set in B tier, which just means it's really bloody good. And like, B tier for $50, like those sets on this table are outliers, right? Like those are the best of the best in their price ranges. So for this set to just come in and be like, I'm B tier, I'm hanging out. All of those are B tier. This is A-, right? But this is B, this is B, this is B, this is B minus. Some of the best sets you can buy with this money. So I don't think anyone is surprised that I'm gonna award it this set, the Truthear Zero, the full 5 stars. Great fit, great accessories, great comfort, great sound, really. Like, I'm sorry if this turned into a shillfest. Those are all great IEMs, right? I didn't compare it against garbage, sadly. But yeah, 5 stars for this guy and B tier. I'm thoroughly impressed. Good job, Truthear. Good job, Crinacle. And as for you, the person watching this video, it already ended, so why the fuck didn't you just fuck off, eh? Like, just go, just there, just go outside, touch some grass, like, no, listen to music. Why the fuck are you still listening to me around? Like, I just told you to fuck off, like, seconds ago, so, bye-bye.